So, hello everybody. Welcome. My name is Michael Scott Forehand. I'm a broker underwriter planner here at Symmetry Financial Group. Today is January the 18th, 2024. This is the first one of our presentations for the year, and we're here to talk about debt-free life, which is the proprietary version of an infinite bank system, which is offered through Symmetry Financial Group. When I say proprietary, I mean some of the things we teach, talk about, and that we explain to people and how we structure these programs. Those are all proprietary to Symmetry. And what we're doing with a debt-free life program is we're getting people out of debt quickly. And if you don't have any debt, then a debt-free life program is really an infinite bank, which is a financial instrument that allows you to store, grow, and collect cash in a place where you're still liquid, but the IRS cannot touch it, tax it, or see it as long as you play by the rules that the IRS set up. Not my rules, their rules. And we're going to teach you how to do some of that here in just a minute. So let's go ahead and get rolling. This is debt-free life. Debt-free life is a play on words. And what it is designed to do, we're designing to have a financial instrument that helps us eliminate debt and become debt-free. And the life part is it's debt-free for life. But really what we're doing here is we're using life insurance policies, specific kinds, in manners that are allowed by the IRS tax code that wealthy segments of our population have known about for years, and you've been using them for years. But we're not going anywhere that you shouldn't legally. Everything we do is on the up and up, and we're just using the IRS tax code to allow us to create that thing I was talking about just a minute ago, a place where we can store and grow cash where the IRS can't touch it, tax it, or see it. And then potentially, if we do it correctly, I'll call it duplication. It's not really duplicating funds, but it will feel like that. Okay. And then we'll be able to have more money. And there's nothing wrong with having more money. All right. So let's keep rolling. All right. So initially, when we talk to people and they have debts, this is how this conversation starts. It says, hey, look, are you 100% sure you're going to have a solid retirement? Do you have some doubt? The only people that are going to answer that question with, yes, I'm 100% sure I'm going to have a solid retirement. The only people that answer that question, yes, are pompous financial planners, because nobody's got a crystal ball that works. Nobody's got a 100% foolproof system, and nobody can guarantee, especially if you're positioned in equities or even in bonds, which are pretty safe, nobody actually can guarantee that you're going to have the same amount of money. Well, guess what? That's not entirely true. We can guarantee you'll never lose a penny. And that's one of the beautiful parts about these programs and how we structure them. The other question that we ask is, if we could show you a way to get out of debt in 9 years or less, would you be interested in listening? So what I've done, and I've done thousands and thousands of illustrations and debt elimination solutions for people over the years. What I find is that it's not 9 years or less. The reality is it's 15 to 27 years early. So let me give an example. Most of the time, an individual's largest debt is a mortgage. And let's say you've got a $900,000 mortgage and you're making regular payments and you've got a good finance rate and you're paying it off over time, and your $900,000 mortgage is going to take you, because you wrote it for a 30-year solution and you did it, I don't know, 5 years ago, you've got 25 years left on your mortgage. In that example, using a debt-free life program or infinite bank, without you spending any more money than you're spending right now, this program would allow you to get out of that remaining 25 years of debt on your mortgage in about 12.5 years, cuts it about in half. If you have additional debts, this is not debt consolidation, okay? So don't get confused with that. If you have additional debts, credit cards, personal loans, back taxes, student loans, Uncle Bob, 50 grand, whatever. If you've got additional debts that you're currently making debt service on, then your program will actually work faster. So that's one of the key tenets of the system. The programs work faster the more debts, plural, the number of debts you have. The amount of debt you owe actually is irrelevant, okay? As long as you're able to make your current debt service, the amount you owe is not relevant, all right? So here's a good example. I have two clients that I wrote policies on, programs on 4 years ago at this point. Okay, so one was a 35-year-old man who was in the Navy. He had a new car, he had a mortgage, he had 2 credit cards, he had a back tax bill that he had left over. No, it wasn't taxes, it was something else. And he had 2 other debts that were something like a water purification system for his house or something like that. So he had a total of 7 debts. The total amount that he owed was $200,000. Okay, not much, not really, not in the grand scheme of things. Seven debts, $200,000. And I had another gentleman who lives where I live geographically, and he worked as a welder at Newport News Naval Shipyard. And that gentleman also owed $200,000, was also 35 years old. However, he didn't have any debt other than his home. In his home, he owed $200,000 on. So in both cases, they both owed $200,000. They're both young, healthy men. They both had the same underwriting rating once we got them through underwriting. One guy had 7 debts. One guy had 1 debt. The guy that had 1 debt, it took us 15 years to pay off his debt. Not bad, consider he had a 30-year mortgage. Not bad. The guy that had 7 debts, also with a 30-year mortgage. That guy, 7.2 years. So the reason why this works like this is because of a concept called a debt snowball. Okay, so for those of you that are out there and you cruise TikTok and you cruise the internet and you find stuff about Dave Ramsey and Dave Ramsey's debt snowball and blah, 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 blah. What Dave Ramsey teaches is not a debt snowball. What he teaches is called a debt stack. And in the grand scheme of things, a debt stack is an inferior way to eliminate debts. It works, but it's inferior. What do I mean by inferior? I mean, it's probably 6 to 8% less efficient than a debt snowball. I can't tell you that that's always the case, because if the only debt that a person has is 1 debt, it's their house, a debt snowball and a debt stack are exactly the same thing. There is no difference. But if you have 2 debts, then a debt snowball, you have a 50-50 chance of calling it right. If you have 3 debts, then you got a 1 in 6 chance of calling it right. If you have 4 debts, you got a 1 in 16 chance of calling it right. So the point is that a debt stack is rarely the correct choice in a debt elimination strategy. A debt snowball is almost always going to be the right choice. If the goal is to eliminate debt, it is always the right choice. All right, so let's keep rolling. So if you're most Americans, we make plenty of money. The average American makes about $2 million in their lifetime. Unfortunately, we are taught by the banks how to get into debt. And because we are taught how to get into debt, that means we spend an inordinate amount of money on interest. So if we could show you a way to eliminate the majority of your interest, not even the majority, just let's say a third of it, that's a huge amount of money. The other thing that we do, unfortunately, in this country is we pay way too much in taxes. And we do that because we have to, based on the state that we live in. If you're in Delaware, fantastic. If you're in Florida, fantastic. If you're in Virginia, bad idea. If you're in New York, God help you. If you're in California, God help you. Okay. So the point is that where you live certainly affects the amount you pay in taxes. So if we can manipulate that number, reducing our tax exposure, maybe even reducing our tax bracket, then for a federal income tax, then we're going to do well. And that's the idea. Part of the tenet of our program is we're trying to reduce the amount of money that you make, reduce the tax exposure on it. So if we can reduce your tax exposure and reduce the amount of interest that you're paying on debts, where's that money going to go? So that's the idea. We want to change how much you're spending on interest and change how much you're spending on taxes. And the screen that you've been staring at for a little bit, that number 74, that should be crazy, right? 74 cents of every dollar that you make, if you're the average American, is spent on debt and interest. And we want to change that, because that's not what our founding fathers had in mind. They're turning over in their graves right now. Okay, so let's change it. What are we going to do? Well, first off, let's go here. If you make $2 million on the previous slide, do you see that little sliver at the top, savings 3%? Okay, that's the average American's retirement savings. Average American's retirement savings. And the reason why we are that way is because for the longest time, most corporations have offered pension programs. So the US, the federal government and state governments were relying for probably the first, well, for the middle 100 years of our country, they were relying on retirement programs, retirement incomes, pensions to be created and offered to employees by their corporations, by their companies, by their employers. That has changed. Now, the largest provider of pensions in this country is, ding ding, you guessed it, Social Security. And the problem with that is that Social Security is basically bankrupt. Right now, they just came out, the Congressional Budget Office just came out with a notice that they were going to have to reduce the amount of payments to Social Security recipients starting in 2034. They said they're going to have to reduce it 22%. And in conjunction with doing that, not only are they going to reduce the Social Security payments by 22%, they're also going to increase the retirement age before you can start getting it to 70. I think they said 70 or 72. So they're taking it away from us and they're reducing how much they pay us. So if the majority of Americans, which is the unfortunate problem, are relying on our federal government to provide their retirement income, what's going to happen? Well, you're starting to see it now. And this is something we're actually going to talk about next week. But what we're seeing right now is we're going to start to see a larger and larger percentage of defaults. I saw a report the other day, there's $700 billion of delayed defaults that are on the books for banks right now, and the banks are scared. They're quaking in their boots. And we saw some bank foreclosures last year, some bank closures last year. We're going to see some more this year, starting pretty soon. It's not going to be good. All right. So the problem that we have is that most Americans are only saving 3% of their income. That means they've got Social Security, they're banking on Social Security. 3% based on what Social Security is going to be is not enough. If you're an individual that makes $100,000 a year and you're saving 3% of your income, $3,000 a year, and you do that for $20,000 a year, great job. You've got $60,000. And all of a sudden you leave and you're not getting your $100,000 a year anymore. And you're relying on what Social Security is going to pay you because you earned $100,000 a year in your last year of employment. That number is going to be about $3,200 a month. 3,200 times 12, 36,000. Guess what? You've got a $64,000 drop in your income. How long is that $60,000 that you've been saving for the last 20 years? How long is it going to last? 1 year. And then you're out of luck. At that point, you're looking at trying to live the lifestyle you were living on $100,000 on what you have now, which is $36,000. So that's the problem. The problem is we don't save enough. We spend too much money on interest. We spend too much money on taxes. And we're really strapped. We're only able to spend 26 cents of every dollar we make on living, right? And that starts from this. It starts from here because we made a lot of money. We made $2 million, but we only saved 60,000. It's not enough money. So what do? Well, if you have debts, then you're going to go talk to some people. You're going to talk to a debt consolidator. You're going to talk to a debt negotiator. We're not that. We don't do any of that. I'm not going to call up all your creditors and say, hey, look, I know I owe you $6,000, or my client owes you $6,000. If we give you 4,000 right now, can we call it even? That's not what we do. And that's going to destroy your credit, which is also not what we do. We're not going to take all your little debts, your 3 credit cards and your car payment and your back taxes and the John Deere tractor you got in your backyard and your new lawnmower. We're not going to take all those little debts and make one larger debt that's even more difficult to pay off. Debt consolidation is an illusion. Don't do it. It's a bad idea. Okay? That's not what we're going to do. Instead, we're going to tackle it the easy way. Well, it's not easy. We're going to tackle it the appropriate way. That's the most efficient way to tackle it, using a debt snowball in conjunction with an infinite bank right here. All those things that you see when you go talk to that person, that credit counselor, that debt counselor, they're going to tell you to do all those things. Only one of them works with consistency, which is the debt snowball, which is why we focus on that. All right. So the better way, that's our way. We're talking about a creation of a debt-free life or an infinite bank. that you get to use, you get to control. So how does it change things? So where you are right now on the left side of your screen, 3% of your money is being saved for retirement. And you're spending 4/10 of what you earn on taxes and 34% of what you earn on interest. If we can shave some of that money off taxes, like I said earlier, and shave some of that money you spend on interest, like I said here, let's say we'll cut the amount you pay on taxes by 25%, and we'll cut the amount you pay on interest by about a third. Where's the money go? At no point did we ever say, go get another job, go be a Walmart greeter, pick up an Uber job, go do a DoorDash delivery. We never said go out and get another job. I don't want to change your style of living. I don't want to make you work harder. You don't need to. If you could work harder, you would. If you could save more, you would. If you could spend less, you would, right? You're not, that's not you. That's not where we're at. And I know if we have any one of those things as a primary solution, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to stay with it for a long time. I want something that's sustainable for you. Okay. So that's where we go. Where we go is moving from the left side of your screen to your right side of the screen by shaving how much you're spending on taxes, shaving how much you're spending on interest, and then maximizing how much you're saving. We have if you do the math, that's a 500% increase in the amount of money you're saving for retirement. And then also increasing your cash flow. Let me talk about that for a second. If you're here and we're talking to you about doing an infinite bank, I know that if I tell you to spend less money, it's not sustainable and you're not going to complete the program. So if you talk to anybody and that's one of their solutions for you, run away, because it's not sustainable. It's not going to work. You're going to trip up and then you're going to get back to where you are right now. But if I create a program, get this, that doesn't cost you anything, doesn't cost you any more than you're spending right now, you'll probably stick with it because it's not affecting anything for you. And if we actually leverage that so that you're getting a greater and greater and greater, that snowball, a greater cash growth, then not only are you going to stay with it, you're going to fall in love with the program, and you're probably going to want to overspend on the program, which is great because then you're moving faster and faster. That snowball, like for me, when I close my eyes and I picture it, I was a child of the 70s, and I grew up and I used to watch that one Christmas show, The Grinch, where he's got the little dog that he tied the antler to, and he put him to pull the sled, and the little dog keeps going, and all of a sudden the dog trips and he rolls and becomes a bigger and bigger and bigger snowball. That's what I think of when I think of these programs that does snowball. That's my vision, and I love it. All right, so let's keep rolling here. Okay, so how are we going to do it? We're going to reduce the amount of interest you pay over time. That's critical. I can't just call up my company and say, hey, look, I know we have an agreement that I'm going to pay you 6.6% interest on my new car, but I'm not going to pay you 6.6. I'm only going to pay you 2.2. That's not going to happen. But if we eliminate the interest sooner, okay, then the downline interest that we already have scheduled is going to go away. That's one of the things we do. If we can eliminate all of your debt in 9 years, right? Oh, okay. Yes, I'm talking about a 30-year loan. So what's your scheduled interest on a 30-year loan? We're going to show you in just a second, and it's massive. I don't care if you've got a 2.6% or 3.6% interest rate. The amount of interest you're going to owe on a 30-year mortgage is massive. And if we can simply eliminate some of that downline interest, look, they gave you an amortization schedule. They amortized your loan. You didn't, they did. And what we're going to do is we're going to use that amortization schedule against them. Because every time when they do that, every month, they're looking at how much do you owe this month? Okay, well, that is on this schedule here, so you're going to pay us this much interest and this much principal. We're going to change the game. We're going to change the rules to our benefit as opposed to the bank's benefit. We're going to reduce the amount of money you pay in taxes over time. Why? Because the money that we're going to be using, that we're going to be saving, that we're going to be storing, is going to be put into a place where it can grow in a tax-exempt manner, as opposed to your 401k, or your IRA, or your KEO, or your SEP, or your TSP, or your FERS. We're going to put it in a place where the IRS cannot touch it, tax it, or see it, and never will be able to. We're going to improve your cash flow. Again, that whole idea, if I put you in a situation where you have to, pinch the penny and tighten the belt, it's not going to work. You're not going to stick with it. And then finally, we're going to allow you to retire with a tax favored income. Now, look, there's three kinds of tax favored incomes. There's tax deferred. There's taxable, which is not really a tax favored income. And there's tax exempt. In my book, tax exempt is the best of all three of those. So that's where I focus. That's where we try to go. We try to go to that tax exempt piece. All right. You've heard, if you're researching this, you've seen all kinds of stuff out there. The internet and TikTok and Instagram, they're rife with a bunch of people spouting a bunch of BS, most of which is wrong, most of which are just people trying to get you to call them so they can write an IUL on a 70-year-old, or try to sell you a piece of software to move money from one account to another every night, or trying to get you to invest in the quote unquote Australian model, which is a complete, don't do that. The Australian model, if you hear of it, is nothing more than a home equity line of credit. And if you're using that to eliminate your debts, that means that you are sacrificing equity in your property for something that doesn't deserve equity in your property, like a credit card or a car or back taxes or a student loan. Don't do it. And also, ding, 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 home equity line of credits, those are variable rate loans. And guess what? Your carrier, your company, your bank can call those notes due, and you don't have a choice. And if you can't pay, they're going to foreclose. You're going to lose your house. Do not do a home equity line of credit in this market. It is a huge, huge mistake. All right. So some of those things I was just talking about, the reasons why some of those other programs fail is because they don't plan for an emergency. The programs that we use here have an emergency fund built into it. This is what we're talking about, the 80-20 rule. About 20% of your available cash is available to you in an emergency. You won't see it. You can't see it. It's there. Here's the thing. When we say emergency, we mean emergency. It's not that, okay, my best friend Joe is getting ready to take a cruise and I really want to go and I need to take out some money so I can go buy the cruise and buy the upgraded, increased cost airline ticket because I'm trying to book it with only a week to get. That's not an emergency. Okay. An emergency is my brother-in-law lost his job. My sister can't work anymore. It's going to be 13 months before they have any money coming in for my sister-in-law, and they and their two children are going to lose their house unless they come up with $40,000 to keep the bank satisfied for some time. That's the emergency I'm talking about. So if you get to the point where you have a real emergency, the money's there. All right. It's just hidden because we don't want you to spend it. All right. So this goes back to that tax deferred conversation, tax advantaged retirement income. Three kinds of tax advantaged income: taxed, which you see on your screen. The example of a taxed retirement income would be you putting money into a savings account. You pay money before you put it in there. You pull money out, and every year at the end of the year, if your savings account made some money, your bank's going to send you a 1099. That's taxed. Okay. What's tax deferred? That's your 401k. You didn't pay money on it when you put it into the program. Your program has grown. And when you take the money out, you're going to pay tax on everything that you take out. That's a 401k. What about a Roth, Forehand? Okay, a Roth. What is that? Is that a taxed? No. Is it tax deferred? No. It's tax exempt, right? Yeah, sure, it is. However, it is not tax exempt without restrictions, right? In a Roth, and here's the dirty secret about Roths, in a Roth IRA, the money that you put in is going to make money or lose money, just like every other IRA out there. It's going to make money or lose money, and it can lose money. So if you're putting your money in a Roth, what you're saying is, I want to put my money into a Roth because I won't have to pay money I won't have to pay taxes when I pull the money out. Yep, that's true. And how much money are you going to have 2 years from now? I don't know. How about 3 years from now? I don't know. How about 5 years from now? I don't know. How about when you retire? I don't know. That's the problem with the Roth. You have no idea. You don't know. And you're also restricted on how much you can put in it per year. And you're also restricted on when you can start taking it. So it's got a lot of restrictions on it. So Roths, okay. not bad, but there's a better way to do it. And that better way to do it is what I'm saying here. Tax exempt, just like a Roth. However, I don't have any restrictions on when I can take the money. I don't have any restrictions on how I use the money. I can put the money in today, take it out tomorrow, use it again if I want. That's for me, that's the best kind of account. Oh, but wait, there's one more thing. What happens if when I take the money out, I'm actually not taking my money? What happens if I'm taking their money and my money is still in the program earning interest and a dividend every day for me for the rest of my life until I die? And then, oh, by the way, when I do die, when the big man calls me, waiting for you, the big man calls me, my family's going to get it. And they're going to get it as a death benefit, which means ding, 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 tax exempt. So not only is it tax exempt when I'm using the money, it's tax exempt when they receive the money, whether they're taking it as a death benefit, which is most likely the case, or any other way that they would normally receive the funds. If you compare tax deferred, taxed, and tax exempt modes of retirement income, if you compare each one of those different strategies and you use the same unit measurement to start it, which is a $10,000 investment, and you use the same length of time, which is 28 years, and you use the same average return, does anybody out there feel like their 401k is giving them an average of 7% return per year? If you are you really receiving 7% return per year? Because I know some people that lost 28% in their IRA 2 years ago, and they're all happy that they're back up 18% this year. But guess what? They're still not whole. They're still down. They're still at -10 from where they started 2 years ago, right? So if you have, in that example, a loss in 1 year and a sub-loss retrace in year 2, you're still down. But it's not just that you've lost money. It's that you've lost 2 years of growth. That's the problem with IRAs. That's a problem with 401ks. They can make money and they can lose money. So if we're in a tax exempt situation, $10,000, 28-year investment, 7% interest rate, and 25% tax rate when we take the money out, there is no way in the world a tax or tax deferred account can compete with a tax exempt account, no matter how you flush it out. Math is math. That's one thing I love about math as a language, because it doesn't lie. And it says the same thing to everybody. Okay, let's keep going. Don't have any illusions about what an infinite bank is. It is a financial instrument, just like your Keo, just like your SEP, just like your 401, just like your 403B or your TSP or your 457, or even your 529 plan, which is nothing more than a retirement program, a financial instrument. However, like all financial instruments, this is life insurance though. Life insurance has some other key benefits. The taxation part we'll talk about and all those other things. But because this is a financial tool, financial instrument, it works in phases, just like every other one of those phases does. Maximization. How do I get to the point where I'm saving the most amount of money from my financial tool? What do I do with the money? My call. Retirement, buy property, invest in crypto, whatever. That's the distribution. How do I get to the point where I'm maximizing? I'm sorry, I got a little itch because we got some dust in here today. Apologize. So how do I get this to the point where I can maximize the amount of money that I'm putting in there? Well, the number one reason, if you're not maximizing your retirement savings right now, the number one reason you're not is because you have debt. And some people would think of, well, yeah, well, the only debt I have is a house, and I'm going to have a house payment anyway. Yep, that's true. But if you didn't have a house payment, wouldn't you be able to save more for real estate or for other investments or for retirement? Of course you would. So if you've got debt, any debt, even if your only debt is a mortgage, then you're still in your maximization phase, because you are limited on how much money you can store for growth, store for retirement, because you have that loan that you're paying debt service on. Okay. I'm not telling you to go out and refinance. Bad idea right now. I'm not telling you to do anything with your mortgage. I'm just saying you have a mortgage, you have debt. You have other debts, all of them are compiling are compounding the reduced rate that you are experiencing in saving for retirement. All right, so maximization. Accumulation, what is that? That's when we've eliminated the detractors from our growth strategy. We've eliminated everything that's holding us back from maximizing our retirement saving effort. Once we've done that, then we are truly in the accumulation phase. That's when we have reached the pinnacle of the maximum amount of money that we're going to be saving for retirement for however long that is. Maybe it's 20 minutes, maybe it's 20 years. I don't know. It's whatever it is for you, the accumulation phase. Then the distribution phase, that's when we've reached the point where we're stopping saving. We are now turning the faucet on and we're dripping income or running income out of our program. Distribution. Okay. So our goal is to get you through the maximization phase as fast as possible, lengthen the accumulation phase to as long as possible, and maximize in the distribution phase how much money you've got coming out. That's how all financial programs should probably work. That's how this one definitely works. All right. So, haven't heard of an infinite bank before? Well, on your screen are some of the people that have done it. And this is not a new thing, folks. This has been done for a very long time. The oldest one I can find was done by John Rockefeller in 1904. And the first one that he did, it was not done for life insurance. It was not done because he wanted to fund some business like what Walt Disney and Ray Kroc did. It was done because he wanted to create a legacy for his family, which is why one of the main reasons why the Rockefeller family to this day are so wealthy, because he understood, as if you're sitting here, you probably do too. He understood the effect of compounded interest. Einstein said it, there's nothing more powerful than the effect of compound interest, right? So he knew that, which is why every time he had a grandchild that was born, he had 19 folks, 19 grandkids. Every grandchild that he had within a year of when they were born, who took out a whole life insurance policy and put $50,000 cash in. Do you know what those were worth when those children turned 40? Millions. Okay. And that's how the Rockefeller family's wealth grew. Started with good investments and sometimes some shady things that they did. And then ended up being a legal, legitimate methodology to grow wealth and transfer wealth. All right. Walt Disney used it to fund Disney World. Disney World and Disneyland cost millions and millions and millions of dollars to build. He did not have millions of dollars to build them. What he did is he had some money. So he put some money into a life insurance program, and then he did that process that we teach here called dollar cycling, where he used the same dollars over and over and over. Built It's a Small World, recouped it. Built the next big thing, recouped it. Built the next big thing, recouped it. Same dollars, spent multiple times over and over and over again, using an infinite bank strategy. Doris Christopher, same thing with Pampered Chef. That's how she built Pampered Chef. She started from a small one-store physical location into what it's become now, which is this massive, potentially work from home, I guess, almost like a multi-level marketing solution. Ray Kroc, the first 11 McDonald's units were funded with the same money. Did you hear that? The first 11 McDonald's units were funded with the same money coming from an infinite bank. He just recycled it and used it over and over and over again. And finally, one of my financial heroes, Warren Buffett, he still uses these, still has them. Last time I heard, he had 14 infinite banks set up and running. You think if one of the smartest men in finance today thinks these are a good idea, that maybe they're a good idea? Welcome to infinite banking. All right. So what are we doing? Really, in a nutshell, we're harnessing the power of life insurance. And it's nothing more. A life insurance, if you think about anything else, it's a vessel to hold money. That's what we're doing with it. We're holding money. And each one of these bullet points that you see on your screen are different ways that are, by using an infinite bank, we're going to be able to eliminate debt, grow cash, create legacy, create wealth. That's it. It's that simple. All right. So if you're going to do this, though, you need to understand first and foremost how you spend money. That's a big problem. Let's go there. All right. So how you spend money right now, you make money however you make money, whether you're a 1099, W-2, W-4 employee or a trust fund baby, it doesn't matter. You make money however you make money. That money gets deposited into your checking account and your bank thanks you for it. And this is how you save and spend money because you were taught this by the banks because the bank is in the business of making money with your money. Yep. The bank is in the business of making money with your money. And if the bank can do that over and over and over again, and you're going to be a lemming and allow them to teach you how to do that and follow them, then they've got it. Congratulations, you're a bank person. Awesome. Um, awesome for the bank, not awesome for you. What do you think they're doing with your money? Well, when you put your money into your checking account, it sits there, right? Nope. The money that's in your bank account, in your checking account, every night leaves the bank. And it gets lent out to other banks. And it gets lent out at the federal funds rate or higher. The average dollar you put into your bank account earns your bank 61 to 70 cents. So they're earning somewhere between 61 and 70% of every dollar that you put into your bank account. They're lending it out over and over and over again, making money with your money, and then giving you nothing for it. Or maybe you've got a really generous bank because you've got $200,000 in your checking account. They're going to pay you 2%, 3%. Do you think they're only making 2%? No, they're making 61 to 70%, right? And at the end, you decide that it's time to pay that debt. Whatever the debt is, it doesn't matter. So you tell your bank either through your normal bill pay system or because you actually stroke a check if you're still writing checks, and you send that check off to your creditor. And then your bank receives that check and the bank says, okay, I'm going to pay this debt. And they transfer money out of your checking account to your creditor's checking account. And if you are super sweet and super nice and the nicest person on the planet and you need that money back, is your creditor going to give it back to you? Nope. That money's gone. That money's gone forever. It is no longer your money. It is their money. And if you want it back, you'll have to borrow it again at a much higher interest rate. That's the game. The game is the bank wants you to put money in your savings account, your checking account. They're going to pay you maybe in a savings account. They're probably not going to pay you in a bank account. They're going to make a lot of money with your money. And then in the end, you're going to spend it and your money's gone forever. In this example, your dollar was used on your benefit exactly one time. Okay. And that's one of the tenets of our system, our program. We try to get you to use dollars more than one time, or at least get your money in more than one place at a time. This is how the program works with the way we set it up. Nothing changes about how you earn money. You make the money, W-2, W-4, trust fund, whatever, it gets deposited into your checking account. But here's where things change. When the money hits your checking account, we don't let it sit there and let the bank use the money over and over and over again. We actually move it, and we move it into a life insurance policy. Why life insurance? Well, mainly because of tax code 7702A, which says all money derived from a life insurance policy is tax exempt. Potentially because of IRS tax code 162, which says money that's deposited into a life insurance policy on behalf of an employee is a tax write-off for the company that puts the money in there. And maybe sometimes because of 101J, which is a different use of the tax code, but it still allows us for use of life insurance in the form of a cash growth vehicle. So in this example, we're using a whole life. I'm not talking about the whole life policy that your grandparents took out on you when you were born. I'm not talking about a basic whole life program with a very low growth rate at somewhere less than probably 0.15% per year. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about participating whole life. And I'll explain that in just a second. It's a critical piece here. More importantly, the money that we're sending to this company, it's actually being split. We're writing one check, one life insurance policy, but that policy has two riders. Okay. The first rider is a term life insurance rider. Term is temporary. However, this plays into how the IRS tax code 7702A is interpreted. Because if you read into the minutia of the verbiage in 7702A, it doesn't say the amount of life insurance. It says the amount you spend on life insurance. So if I can increase a death benefit by spending some money on whole life, that's great. But I've got a ceiling on how much money I can put in there. But if I spend a little bit more on term, then I get this massive umbrella of a total amount of life insurance. Because one of the other tenets of this is it does say, this is where the taxable issue comes into play. It says if a life insurance policy has a cash value that exceeds the death benefit, then that life insurance policy is no longer considered life insurance. It's considered a modified endowment contract and it becomes taxable. So that's why we put this big term rider, this big term umbrella, so that we can grow the cash underneath, grow the death benefit at the same time, and never have the cash value exceed the term plus the whole life. If we had nothing but just the whole life and we really wanted to fund this thing, your cash value would exceed the whole life pretty quickly and it would become taxable. And once it becomes taxable, you can't go backwards. Once it's a MEC, it's always a MEC. Okay. So the goal is we want the money to be split. So as a general rule, general basic distribution, we look to create programs that are about 65 to 70% cash efficient, which means 65 to 70% of every dollar you put in here is going to cash growth. Now, earlier today, I was actually working with a new client where we were able to create a program for her that's actually 94% cash efficient. And it's possible, just depends on the health of the client and what you're trying to do and your funding ability. But in this particular case, we're looking for 65%, which means 20 to 25% of whatever your premium is paying is going towards whole life. Somewhere between 10 and 12% is going to pay for term, which allows us to have that great big death benefit. And the balance, 65%, is going to go to cash growth. Great, right? What did we just do? We took the money out of your bank account and put it someplace where it's earning interest for you, as opposed to leaving the money in your bank account and leaving it in a place where you're earning interest for your bank and getting zero. We just created an infinite bank or private bank or a debt for life bank. They're all the same thing. They're all based on an infinite bank. And what we did was we took the earning potential away from your bank. It was making 61 to 70 cents every night with your money and giving you nothing. We just took it away from them and gave it to ourselves. And we created our own private debt-free life bank. All right. So that's the mechanics of how it works. How do I use the funds? All right. In the previous example, we had to take some money from out of our regular checking account and pay a debt. Let's say it's $1,000. Okay. So we took $1,000, wrote a check for $1,000 and mailed it off to our creditor. That was the previous example. That's how you were taught how to spend and save money. Okay. That's why you are where you are. And that's why the bank that you bank with loves you, because you're making them lots of money just by leaving your money in their bank. Let's change it. So instead of using that standard banking methodology that you're accustomed to, that you were taught, that you know how to use, that you're comfortable with, let's change it up a little bit. So in this case, instead of leaving that $1,000 in your bank account, let's actually move it into a life insurance policy. Okay. Where the majority of what you send, the majority of that $1,000 is actually going to cash growth. Okay. And then when the time comes, we have to pay that debt. We don't take our principal out. This is one of the key tenets of these programs. This is why these are so powerful. I'm not taking my money out of my account. I don't touch the money that's in my account. It grows. It grows every day. Guaranteed interest plus a dividend every day for the rest of my life until I pass. Instead, I'm going to take a loan against it. So if you think of this as like a CD, if you go to the bank and you buy a $10,000 CD, you're going to get an interest rate 2, 3, 4%. Okay, if it's a 3-month CD. And then if you overspent and you really need to get back to that $10,000, you can sacrifice the CD and take a hit on it, or you can ask the bank, hey, can I borrow some money? I know I've got that $10,000 CD on deposit with you guys. Can I borrow $10,000? And they will say, sure, Mr. Forehand, sign right here. Well, how much is my CD earning? Your CD is earning 2.4%. That's awesome. Great. Okay. And how much is this loan for? The loan is a low rate of 6.4%. They're charging me 4% to borrow my own money. That is how they make money. So in the CD example, we're flipping that on its head here. Okay. So instead of me borrowing money at a higher interest rate than I'm earning, CD borrowing at 6.4, earning 2.4, let's flip it. Let's borrow the money from myself. I'm going to borrow the money from my private bank. I'm going to choose whether or not I want to charge myself an interest rate. I'm not going to. I'm going to give myself the money for free because I'm a cool guy and I trust me. And I'm pretty sure that if I don't pay my debt to myself, I'm not going to take myself to court. Pretty sure that's not going to happen. Okay. So I'm not going to take myself to court. I'm not going to charge myself an interest rate because I'm a cool guy. I'm going to take a loan from my private bank that I'm the banker, I'm the controller, I'm the owner, I'm the payer. Okay. I have that control. I'm going to take the loan. The loan gets deposited back in my checking account. I send it off to my creditor, and the debt is paid. Is my creditor happy? Yep, they got paid. Do they care where the money came from? They do not. All they care about is that they got paid. Is my bank happy? Nope, they hate me. Why? Because they didn't get to use my $1,000 every night. Am I happy? Absolutely. Because that $1,000 that I just spent, that I just borrowed, guess what? My $1,000 is still in my private bank. It's still earning a guaranteed interest. It's still earning a dividend every day for the rest of my life. I just paid my debt with somebody else's money. So if you're looking at this in the grand scheme of things from wealth creation, wealth preservation, in example number one, I spent $1,000 from my checking account to pay off $1,000 of debt. What is my gain there? Goose egg, my gain is zero. I'm minus $1,000 of cash flow and plus $1,000 of equity in a debt. The gain is it's a wash. Minus 1,000 plus 1,000, zero. In this example, what's my gain? Do I still have my cash? Yep, I got $1,000 up in my private bank. Is my debt still paid? Yep, I got $1,000 equity in here. What's my gain? My gain is $1,000. I gained 100%. But yes, Scott, you still have a loan. Don't you have to pay it back? Yep, you sure do. Okay, well, don't have to write a check? Nope, you don't. Why not? This is life insurance, folks. So because it's life insurance, it's already collateralized. The loan is collateralized by the value of your life insurance policy. Are you telling me I don't have to write a check? I'm telling you don't have to write a check. Okay. So when we're talking about borrowing against the life insurance policy, I'm not talking about borrowing $1,000, although that could be the case, or 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000, whatever. Okay. And I'm not talking about being able to borrow the total amount of death benefit. That they won't let you do. Okay. But if my death benefit, like most of these programs, starts off at, I don't know, $150,000, $200,000, and I've got $20,000 cash in there, I can borrow all $20,000 cash because I've got a $200,000 life insurance. And if I default on that loan, I've got $200,000. If I die, the $20,000 that I borrowed comes off the $200,000 that gets paid to my beneficiaries. If I don't die, remember this, I said it earns a guaranteed interest rate and a dividend. Okay. The whole purpose of that is to create or engineer, generate, whatever word you want, whatever verb you want to use, arbitrage. The definition of arbitrage is I'm earning a higher interest rate on money that I'm borrowing. Okay. If I borrow money at 1% interest and I'm earning 5% interest on because I put it into a different investment earning 5%, my arbitrage is plus 4%. You have, with some of these companies, if you're using the right company, you have the ability to generate and engineer arbitrage, meaning I'm going to be earning more interest in the form of a dividend and in the form of a guaranteed contractually guaranteed interest rate. I'm earning more than it's costing me to borrow against it. And that's the holy grail. So if you're engineering arbitrage and using the program correctly, then what happens is, do I have to pay my loan back? Yes. Do I have to write a check? No. When you die, it'll pay it off. What if I don't want to wait till I die? Okay. Will the program, is there any other way? Yes. The guaranteed interest rate, if the delta is big enough, if the difference between what you're spending and what you're earning is big enough, it will pay the loan off for you over time. That's called dollar cycling. And that's another one of the main uses of these programs. All right. So last thing I want to do, we're going to show one client. Let's see. There we go. You guys see Debt Free Life Bank at the top? Yep. So thank you, Winnie. All right. So this is actually I just met with these people in October because that was their anniversary, and they are now they actually started overfunding this thing even more than I was planning for them. So where they were, we'll show you in just a second. All right, so these people have some student loans. The wife is now a teacher. She's a professor actually at William and Mary College, William and Mary University. And when I met them, she was still in school getting her doctorate. So she had a lot of student loans, over 100 and almost $110,000 of student loans. He's a truck driver, owned a big rig, had a design to build his own trucking agency, and had a plan that he was going to buy a new rig every 2 or 3 years and build his agency to the point where he got up to 10 rigs, and he's going to retire and sell it when he was 75 years old. That was his plan. So this is what their numbers looked like when we first got started. $584,000 of debt, not abnormal for middle income to high income earners. But when you calculate the interest that they had scheduled, their total debt was $767,000. The majority of that, almost half of that, is actually interest on their student loans. Student loans are evil. Okay, folks, student loans, if you use them right, and you structure them so they don't ever go into deferment, and you start paying on them immediately, they're okay. But for everybody who puts a student loan into deferment and stops paying, the interest doesn't stop, folks. It keeps rolling, and it becomes massively a massive problem for you later in life. So don't do it. All right, if you can. This is what our system did for them: 7.2 years, 7.8 years. Actually, where they are right this minute, because they've been accelerating, they're actually down to about 6.6 years. So they will be completely out of debt from $585,000. They will be completely out of debt this time next year. And I'm really excited for them. And they're, of course, they're telling all their family and friends. And actually the wife, the PhD, who is an accountant, she teaches accounting at William and Mary. She actually went out and got her license because she's so enamored with this program that she's starting to offer it to all of her college friends. So and all of her colleagues at William and Mary. So anyway, this is how it works. It works like a charm if you follow the system. If you got a lot of debt, it works faster. If this person had one debt and that one debt was $585,000, you'd be looking at a 15-year plan. But because they have multiple debts, it works faster. A couple of things I want to show here is, if you think about this, if they stayed on their current track, which was 40 years, he was 35 when the husband who we wrote the program on was 35 years old at the time we wrote it, and he went forward in time, and they got all their debt paid off on the schedule they were on because of her student loans and the 2 houses they had, and yada, yada, yada. They would have been completely debt-free in 40 years. They would have, as a retirement program, 100% equity in 2 properties. Not bad. One of them probably could have been an income property, so there could have been some income coming from that. Not bad. But the problem is, that's all they would have had, other than whatever she saved and he saved in a pension that wasn't created yet at this point. With this system, they don't have to create a pension. This system, this is this really cool illustration. This created $4.8 million in wealth over that same period of time. So without the system, they have 2 properties fully paid off, 100% equity in 2 properties in 40 years, plus one of them is an income stream. Not bad. With the system, they have 2 properties fully paid off in 7.2 years. One of them is an income property, and $4.8 million of liquid cash, and a huge death benefit, about $1.7 million on the husband. One more thing. The cash, right? You're creating cash. What do you do with cash? In this scenario, we're not doing anything with it. We didn't do anything with it. We don't have any derivative annuities using it yet. Okay. In this system by itself, it's creating an income stream starting at age 55. If he wants to retire, he was going to retire at 75. In this case, he retired at 55. If he wants to retire at 55, the total cash value of the program is 1.512 million. If he stops the program at that point, doesn't pay anything, pays zero, okay, the very next year, the value is 1.648 million minus 21.2. So 1.68, 1.64 minus 21 is 1.627. 1.627 minus 1.512 is 1.15. So this is creating a $115,000 per year tax-free income by itself. Now, I know using the derivative annuities, especially the one we were talking about earlier, the 26.6% return one, I know I'm going to be able to turn that into probably, I'm going to be surprised if we don't turn it into $1 million a year income. It won't be tax-free, but $115,000 tax-free income in my book is not as good as $1 million of taxable income. Okay, sign me up. I'll pay the tax. Here you go. Take your $350,000. I'll take my $650 and go have a party. Okay, so that's what this program does. It provides freedom. It provides reduced taxes. It provides reduced interest. It gives you complete control. You don't ever have to go to a bank again. If you want to borrow money, great, borrow it from yourself. You're not going to tell yourself no. And you don't have to worry about filling out financial forms and having them snooping around and looking at all your business. It's done. All right. So let me do this. There we go. Hey, look, everybody's still here. All right. So this is where we start the Q&A part. Let's see if anybody's got any questions. Look at Chris Diaz. He liked this so much, he came twice. All right, go ahead, Jessica. You're up. Yeah, you're going to have to unmute. Rookie.
Yeah, my phone wasn't acting appropriate. Sean was curious. He's right next to me. We've been listening to it. What kind of money is needed to start invest in this?
So that's an individual thing for each person. I can tell you the cheapest one I've ever done was $58 a month. So
okay,
it depends on the age of the insured. It depends on how much money you want to grow. So like a $58 a month program on a 45-year-old, you're going to have zero growth, nothing. Okay. So it's graduated based on, because at the end of the day, it's still life insurance. So you have to get a life insurance policy. That's also influenced by the company that you go with. So one of the primary companies that we use here at our company, they have a minimum of $50,000 of whole life. So that's fine if you're looking for death benefit. But if you're looking for streamlined growth, that's not the company, because you're spending too much money on life insurance. If you're spending on money on a whole life insurance policy, that's going to interfere with growth, because that means, remember how I told you we got 65% going into the PUA, and we've got 11% going into term and 22% going into whole life. With that particular company, you can't do that. They won't let you. You have to spend too much of that money on the whole life piece. And if you're spending more on the whole life piece, then you're going to have to spend more on the term piece to get the bigger number. That means you're spending less on cash growth. So that's not a cash growth focused program. That's a death benefit focused program. So it depends on why the client is trying to do it, what they're trying to do with it. If the goal is to eliminate debt and grow wealth, there's only one company you should be using.
All right, because that's kind of a scenario. Yeah, because I'll just, long story short, Sean received an inheritance from his grandfather.
Passing. I'm happy for the inheritance.
and we currently have it just hanging in the bank. So I think we need to
Okay.
sit down.
Yeah, let's have a conversation about that offline. Okay?
Sounds good.
Because this is recorded and this will be up on YouTube. All right. So, all right. Go ahead, Miss Winnie. Thank you, Jessica.
All right, Scott, thank you. Great presentation as always. At some point towards the end there, when you mentioned, like in that illustration for your client, it said that, in 40 years, they could potentially have about $4.8 million in liquidity or a combined savings and death benefit of 5.8 million, almost 5.9 million. I guess what I'm asking is, so inside of the account, if it has the 4.8 million, they can do anything they want with that money. But when they die, I mean, we're talking about the same account. Let me try to see if I can dissect my own question. We're talking about the same account, right? They have about $4.8 million of cash inside the account, correct? Yep. But when they die, the beneficiary will receive about $5.9 million, correct?
Correct. Because it will all be paid as a death benefit.
It will all be paid.
Right. Because don't forget, where's the cash value coming from? The cash value is coming from paid up additions, which is life insurance. Okay. So while you're alive, you're using the cash value of the life insurance policy as collateral to take loans. But when you die, the cash value of life insurance goes away. It is life insurance. So the distribution would be all life insurance.
It's the paid up additions that's key to this, correct?
Yep, exactly.
Not just like regular cash accumulation, but inside of paid up additions is where it got it. That's where I used to get hung up. Okay.
All right. Good question, though. All right. Who's next? Anybody else? I see Randy. Hello, Randy.
Hi. Hi, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
So my question is, how long, so I know it's the whole life and the term life and the paid up additions. And to classify it as a non-MEC, that's what would have to happen is the paid up additions and the term life, correct?
So term life makes it easier to keep a program non-MEC. You can create non-MEC whole life only programs. No
yes,
problem.
Yeah, I understand that. It's just, it's the cash value can't exceed a certain amount of the percentage, right? Like usually 7 years, right?
So, I mean, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Like the guideline premium test is one way. The TAMR 7-pay solution is another way. So there's different ways to get to the same number. They are not the same number, though. There is, if you're looking at different efficient ways to create non-MEC programs, the most efficient way is using the TAMR 7-pay. And if you're using a TAMR 7-pay solve for these programs, there's actually a way with one of our carriers where you can create a 1-year single premium non-MEC program. And there's only way I've ever seen to do it. And that's an amazing feat. But yeah, so yes, you have to, the purpose of the term is to increase the death benefit so you can grow more cash. In absence of a term, like if the client is not eligible or the client can't qualify for term due to health reasons, but they can qualify for whole life, you can still have it. It's just not going to be anywhere near as cash growth efficient. You're looking at probably a maximum of about 20 or 30% cash growth efficiency in a whole life program.
Okay. My second question is, when are you able to borrow against it? Like how soon? When?
Day one.
Day one.
Yep.
Okay. So theoretically, you put your earned income, W-2 or 1099, your income into the life insurance, and you're able to borrow against your own money as your own bank immediately.
Yep. Subject to the limitations of your bank. Because at the end of the day, the money when you put it into the program, it's transferred from your regular bank into the company's bank and exists on their general ledger. So transferring money back, your bank has to agree to accept the money. There has to be a SWIFT exchange. They have to do the confirmation that it was sent. They have to do the confirmation of receipt. All that takes time. So I say you could do it in day one, probably not in one day, because there's going to be limitations by your bank. If you are
Of course.
banking with a credit union, it's going to add in about 2 days to the process. If you're banking with a regional or a local bank, it's going to add about 1 day to the process. And if you're banking with a national bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, it's going to add about a half a day to the process, because it just depends on how accustomed they are to receiving money from different places. And one last thing, the very first tranche of money you take from the program, the very first time you receive it, there will be a delay, because all of a sudden, especially if you're, some of my clients are moving $50,000, $100,000 at a time. That's, eyebrow raise for your bank. Holy cow, where's this 50 grand coming from? So they're going to make real sure that you're not trying to launder money, and that it's not coming from a nefarious place, and it's not coming for a nefarious reason. So that there
That's
will
all
be
understandable.
some additional scrutiny on your first transfer.
Okay.
Okay.
But the loan against it could only be the cash value that you put into it
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah, I don't know anybody
Yeah.
out there that's going to give you $100,000 loan when you have something that you're using as collateral that's only worth $50.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Randy. Thanks for coming. All right. Anybody else? All right, folks. I don't see. Let me see if there's anything in chat. Okay. Welcome, AI assistant. Okay. What kind of money is needed to start this program? Jessica Couture. Right. So if you're asking amount, we already talked about that. If you're asking what kind, whether you're talking about qualified or non-qualified money, this would be normally started with non-qualified money, money that you've already paid taxes on before you use it. Okay. All right. So Peter Berger, so you have a sense then as the minimum parameters to begin achieving growth. So yeah, ultimately the idea is that we want to structure these programs to achieve growth immediately, because I'm a client also. Okay, so I know that if I say, hey, I just sent you $1,000, how come I only have $5? Not going to work. Okay, so we want to make sure we're going to see some instant growth. And that's why the nice thing about these programs, having access to an online platform, allows us to have almost immediate gratification once the first payment is sent, and you can see it grow over time. One caveat about that, these programs all come with a guaranteed growth rate, right? And the guaranteed growth rate is going to be 3, 4, 5%, depending on which company you use. Guaranteed growth rate. However, every single contract comes with a caveat that says they will not add any of the guaranteed growth rate until 1 year, till the 1 year anniversary, right? And that happens every year. So if you have that 1 year length of time and it grows, then they add your growth rate in there. And then you start having in the second year. They're not going to add the second year's growth until the end of the second year. And the reason for that is because there is a surrender fee, happens in the first 2 years. There is a surrender fee with these programs. And there's also a clause that says if you surrender during any given anniversary year, no dividend and no guaranteed cash growth is earned for that year. So they won't add it and you won't get it. All right. You will begin, you won't see growth, Peter. You won't see a growth in any of these until after the first year. So if I have a program that I'm spending $500 a month, and I've got a 60% cash efficient program where of that $500 a month, $300 is going towards cash growth, I'll be able to see in my account the $300 every month being added. But there won't be any dividend and there won't be any interest added until 1 calendar year later, one anniversary year later. These programs do not follow the Gregorian calendar. These programs follow specifically point to point. My anniversary date is December the 21st. So they will add money on my program next year on December the 22nd. And then start it over on the 1st, and then it goes back on the 22nd. One thing, we didn't get too much into this. There's an absolute benefit to funding these programs earlier if the program uses monthly compounding. Okay, so the primary company that I like to use offers monthly compounding. So because of that, if the monthly compounded interest rate is a guarantee of, we'll use a nice round number, 3%, then if I put money in equally every every month for 12 months, then at the end of the year, my average return is not going to be 3%. Okay, because in month 11, I'm only gaining 1/12 of 3% interest on the money that I put in month 11. And in month 10, I'm only gaining 2/12 of interest for the next 2 months. So over the time, I would think, well, I put in $5,000, I should have 3%. No, you didn't. You didn't put in $5,000. You put in X amount this month that has a full 3%. Then X amount this month that has a full 3% minus 1/12, and then X amount this month that has a full 3% minus 2 times 12. Okay, so that works against you if you're doing an average across the board distribution or an addition. That's an average. If you're putting in regular monthly premiums every month, that works against you. However, if you're doing an annual premium, that absolutely works for you, because then you're automatically guaranteed to get 12 months of interest, which is really critical, because at a 3%, because it still does monthly compounding, even if you're only paying annually, it still does monthly compounding. That means you're getting 1/12 of 3% in month 1 on the entire amount that you have in there. And then in month 2, the entire amount you have in there is increased, because you've got that 1/12 interest. So that means if you fund it in an anniversary year, the first month, you're going to get greater than 3%. The number comes out to somewhere, I think it's like 3.85% is the actual return. So you, as the owner of the program and as the funder of the program, if you have the financial capacity to perform, you can influence the interest rate. Okay, that's a critical concept, but that only works with a company that offers monthly compounding. Doesn't work with we have 3 companies that are primary companies here. 2 of them are annual, 1 of them is monthly. So, and I'm not going to advertise for anybody tonight, but there is an absolute winner in my book of the company to use for this stuff. All right, let's see. Loan sharks. Yes, Tom. I like loan sharking. As a matter of fact, because of my infinite bank, I have become a hard money lender, and I will be happy to lend anybody money to go buy a piece of property right now, as long as they put me in first position on that lien. I will only charge them 16% interest for the first 6 months, and then there's a balloon.
When you said, I don't know many people that would lend out $1,000 with $50 worth of collateral, I'm like, well, loan sharks will, but you're definitely putting a few things at risk with that. Sorry, just trying to be funny.
Yeah. So, but what you just said, I mean, it is funny, and thank you for the humor, Tom. But the reality is, these programs, and I do have clients that do this, and I am joking. I'm not lending money. Don't call me and ask me for money. I'm not going to lend you money. Okay. But you can, there's a cottage industry here that we use that you can peel off from this, because the only person that makes a decision of how you use the money is you. You know, do I want to lend it to somebody for 5% interest? Okay, sure. Whatever, it's your money. All right. Are there limitations to increasing FPUA over time? Yes. When you first write the contract, there's an annual increase. There's an annual amount, that the maximum annual that you can put in. If you try to put in more, some companies will take it and make it a MEC. Some companies will take as much as they can and write you a check for the difference. Some companies will take as much as they can and ask you, did you mean for this to become a MEC? So you need to know what company you're with and what their practice is. All right. How do you accommodate extra cash that wasn't planned for? Every time I write one of these programs, and everybody should be, there's a conversation that happens with the client. And the conversation should be along the lines of, okay, how much money do you need and when? This is the financial planning side of this. What's the maximum amount you think you're ever going to want to put in? So, and this is where, if this is a debt elimination strategy, most of the time the client's not going to know that number. So what you have to do is you have to look at what their current debt service is. What are all their debts? What's the minimum payment on all their debts? Whatever that number is on a monthly basis, multiply it by 12. That's your baseline. That's the minimum level you need to be able to save on an annual basis. Okay. And then go from there. Say, hey, look, you're 45 years old. You ever going to get a raise? Yep. What do you think you're going to get? 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%? What do you think? Whatever the number is, then that's where we need to start looking at increasing. Do you think you're going to want to spend that money and blow it and go to Tahiti? Or are you going to want to take that money and add it and create a solution where you're going to have a bigger retirement? If the answer is the bigger retirement piece, then you need to leave a little bit extra room when you're structuring the programs. In general, you can structure them to save and receive up to $100,000 per year without any special restrictions or without any special permission. I know that I've done programs where we're looking at millions of dollars per year, right? So you can get it up there if you need to, but you do need to have a relationship with whoever the company that you're working with is, so that they can push that kind of crazy stuff through for you. All right. All right. Let's see. Adele. So let me read the rest of the question. Put in the max for the year and have health issues that might not let them qualify for additional life insurance. How do you accommodate extra cash money that wasn't planned for if they've already put in the max for the year and have health issues? If they've already put in the max for the year, Adele, they can't add anymore. It'll become a mech, so they can't. That's why usually when I structure these, I try to write programs that have a program that can be turned on for more. So, we'll write a program on the husband, and then we'll write a term rider on the wife, Mary. And in that example, if the husband's policy fills up because they have a windfall or they're making more money or whatever the reason is, or they've gone through this debt snowball process and they've got so much debt service coming into the program that's blowing the program up every year, then to say, okay, Mary, it's time to convert your program. We're going to turn yours into an infinite bank also. And that's one of the ways that I do plan for that. That's a really inexpensive way to do it because term riders are cheap. And the reality is, folks, if you're going to do one of these things, when's a term rider going to need to be executed? Most infinite bank programs where we're looking at debt elimination, most of them are going to maximize in year 7. Okay. So a 10-year rider is fine. Okay. So that's all I do is a 10-year rider. And if they don't need it, then you cancel it, let it go. If they do need it, great. Then they're making they're able to really grow their nest egg. All right. Let's see. Chris, can you talk about which company does monthly compound? Who's the winner? Yes, I can, but not on this call. All right. Tim's autopilot. That's a lot of notes there, Tim. Thank you. All right, that's everybody's questions. Hey, look, we're right there at the end. Any last minute questions? Anybody have any? Winnie.
Scott, can you see my question? I think that's my question. It says Tim's autopilot. So can you please just touch on what account management looks like? I mean, the client, they like the concept, they bought into the plan. What does it look like? The policy is now in place, and now it's up to the client to make sure that they that they are.
Okay. So what I do is we create a roadmap, like what I showed you guys earlier, where it's going to tell us, okay, if you do this exactly the way we planned it, we expect that you're going to have in month 4 an opportunity where the debt that you owe has come down to the point where the cash value of your program has come up and they meet. And at that point, we're going to take a loan from the program and go pay the debt off. Okay. So when I'm looking at that debt strategy, I'm actually, most of the time I'm putting a note in my calendar that says, okay, in 4 months, on January, Michelle is going to have her program to the point where it's ready to pay off the first debt. And usually we will help them with that process. Or we have one of my staff members, Madonna, sits over here, and she'll say, okay, we got somebody coming up and say, all right, great. Who is it? Okay. So send them a notice. We can have a Zoom call if they want. We can have a telephone call if they want, or if not, just say, send them the loan paperwork. So we'll email them the loan paperwork. They can fill out the loan paperwork. We will submit it to the carrier for them. The money gets deposited to their checking account. It's so funny you're asking this question, Winnie, because this just happened today twice. Okay. Twice, two different people. Right. So the loan paperwork goes to them. We receive it back, which means we're in the mix. Not that I'm not trying to control this. I'm just trying to be here as a resource. And then so we receive the loan paper back, submit it to the carrier in a secure fashion. The money gets deposited. And then what do? You just write a check and send it off to their creditor, and that debt is done. And then the next part is the debt snowball, because now we can start using the debt snowball. So if that debt had a minimum payment of $100 a month, then all we're going to do is we're going to say, all right, so now you're going to go into your online portal and you're going to tell your online portal, I want you to take $100 more per month. And I want you to apply it to, and this is where we help them, it can either go towards additional PUA purchase, which is what you should do in the beginning especially, or it can go to PUA loan repayment. And the reason why I say purchase is more important, especially in the beginning, because in the beginning, the dividend that you receive is suppressed by the length of time you've been in the program. So if you're brand new, the dividend is smaller by default. There's nothing you can do about it. It's smaller because you're brand new. Okay. So does it make any sense for me to pursue a smaller loan amount, which is going to increase my dividend? Or do I increase a larger guaranteed interest amount? Okay, so if I do the math, then the reality is if I'm pursuing paying down the loan, then I'm pursuing an increase of 0.6%. Not bad. But if I instead buy more PUA, I'm pursuing the minimum gain of 3.0%. Much better, 5 times better. Okay.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. So I guess my point is there at any time where you're able to kind of like, like let hands go with your client because they caught on, they get it, they know how.
Yeah, I've got a client that when we started this, that client that I showed here, I haven't helped them with any of their debt elimination or any of those plans or any of the loans or anything since 2019, 2020. Okay, I meet with them every year just because they're friends, and I if we have, she's got a 401k that's starting to roll right now, and we're starting to look at plans because she's a little bit older than he is, and so when she hits 59 and a half, we're going to do an ERISA compliant distribution and get the money out of it and move it somewhere else. So that's I meet with them because they're clients, and because if you trust me enough to help me help you with your finances, okay, I'm going to earn that trust, and that's why I do that. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Yep.
I came back just to ask that question.
Hey, Winnie, I got a little birdie told me there's gonna be a Winnie sighting in about 4 days.
4 days. That's what
Yeah,
you
baby. Right on. All right.
See you soon.
All right, baby. All right. Anybody else
Thank
have
you for
questions? Did I beat that dead horse? Is the horse winning any more time? Are we getting anything else out of this horse? No? Okay. Well, look, folks, I've enjoyed this. Hopefully you got something out of this. Thanks for coming. Thanks for showing up. If you have any questions, you can reach out. I'll put my number if you don't have it. There you go. So I put my number in chat. Feel free to reach out if I can help you. I will. If I can't, I'll probably know the person that can. Oh, wait, there's one. Hey, Scott, does the mystery company run trips anywhere? If so, where? Yes. Well, as a matter of fact, Tom, the mystery company's trip on August the 10th this year is going to the Dominican Republic. And next year, the trip is going to London, just FYI.
Chris, you're welcome.
All right. All right, everybody.
Thank
Have a great night.
you. Thank you.
Yep. We'll see you guys a couple weeks. If you get bored, listen to the radio show next Saturday. Bye.